The American Negro finds himself living in a triple ghetto: a ghetto of race, a ghetto of poverty, a ghetto of human misery. So what we're seeking to do in the civil rights movement is to deal with this problem.
To deal with this problem of the two Americas, we are seeking to make America one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, let me say that the struggle for civil rights and the struggle to make these two Americas one America is much more difficult today than it was 5 or 10 years ago.
It's more difficult today because we are struggling now for genuine equality. It's much easier to integrate a lunch counter than it is to guarantee a livable income and a good solid job. It's much easier to guarantee the right to vote than it is to guarantee the right to live in sanitary, decent housing conditions. It is much easier to integrate a public park than it is to make genuine quality integrated education a reality.
And so today, we are struggling for something which says we demand genuine equality.
To use a philosophical analogy here, racism is not based on some empirical generalization. It is based rather on an ontological affirmation. It is not the assertion that certain people are behind culturally or otherwise because of environmental conditions.
It is the affirmation that the very being of a people is inferior, and this is the great tragedy of it.
I submit that however unpleasant it is, we must honestly see and admit that racism is still deeply rooted all over America.
We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Frankly, I have yet to engage in a direct action campaign that was well-timed in the view of those who have not suffered unduly from the disease of segregation. For years now, I've heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. We must come to see with one of our distinguished jurists that justice too long delayed is justice denied.
We will reach the goal of freedom in Birmingham and all over the nation because the goal of America is freedom. Abused and scorned though we may be, our destiny is tied up with America's destiny.
Before the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, we were here. Before the pen of Jefferson etched the majestic words of the Declaration of Independence across the pages of history, we were here.
For more than 2 centuries, our forebears labored in this country without wages.
They made cotton king. They built the homes of their masters while suffering gross injustices and shameful humiliation. And yet, out of the bottomless vitality, they continue to thrive and develop. If the inexpressible cruelties of slavery could not stop us,
The opposition we now face will surely fail.
Now let me say, finally, that we have difficulties ahead, but I haven't despaired. Somehow, I maintain hope in spite of hope.
And I've talked about the difficulties and how hard the problems will be as we tackle them. But I want to close by saying this afternoon that I still have faith in the future, and I still believe that these problems can be solved.
And so I will not join anyone who will say that we still can't develop a coalition of conscience.
let us rise up tonight with a greater readiness.
Let us stand with a greater determination.
And let us move on in these powerful days.
These days of challenge.
To make America what it ought to be. We have an opportunity to make America a better nation.